Yeah, first of all, I just want to take this opportunity to send our thoughts and prayers and well wishes to the Ursay family. Certainly we lost a legend. What Jim Irsay and his family have meant to the city of Indianapolis, the state of Indiana, and sports in the state of Indiana is immeasurable. And um, we're thinking about his family and sending all of our well wishes.
Questions? I guess just with Sophie being available tonight, how have you seen her progress over the past couple days for play?
Yeah, she's continued to make great progress without a lot of regression. And I think the most important thing for us was making sure that she had her balance back in terms of, her explosiveness and her landing, and she wasn't compensating in any way that might have set her up for future injury or have setbacks. So that's been remedied. She's gotten some workouts in and has looked good and has felt close to normal. So we're ready to give her a go.
Do you anticipate her being on a minutes restriction at all?
No, she's going to be ready to roll.
Kind of going off of that, when you think back on Tuesday's game, where do you feel like you're going to feel her impact most against this team specifically?
Yeah, I think certainly her energy, her communication, those are the intangibles that she brings every day, and you notice it even in practice when she's not out there. I think her ability to be a three-level scorer for us, to be a facilitator, another ball handler, is going to be important. Her activity level, whether she has the ball in her hands or not, makes an impact because she's a willing cutter, which causes rotation. She's tough as nails, so she's going to get in there and mix it up. We missed a level of physicality, I felt like, on the defensive end, and she can bring us that.
Steph, this team seems to be at the epicenter of everything that is exciting and energetic about not just women's basketball, but women's sports right now. The scene in your opening game the other day was more like a championship game than the first game of the season. Can you just describe what it's like to be in the middle of it?
Yeah, it's really incredible. I've been a part of this league for 25 years. To see the growth, to see what's happening now is something that all of us who are very early in the WNBA envisioned. And I'm thankful that I'm still a part of it. Obviously for us in Indiana, we've got a lot to prove, right? We haven't done anything yet. But when you think about the emergence of women's basketball as a whole and the intersection of college basketball fans for the first time in the masses coming over to the WNBA, there had been a little bit of a time, I think, where it didn't connect for some reason or another, and now it's moving the needle in ways that we had always hoped. So it's really exciting. I'm excited to be a part of it. Of course, I'm excited to work with this great group of women that we have. On the floor, we got a long way to go. We're getting better every day, but enjoying this for them, and always when we get an opportunity to walk into a sold-out arena, thinking about the pioneers, right, who laid the foundation for us to be able to play in the WNBA, the ones who played overseas for years and decades and never got to play in this league, and the ones who were a part of it in its very early years and its infancy, and just we stand on their shoulders every time that we get to step out in an arena like this with a full fan base, and we're forever grateful and thankful.
Now that this moment has arrived and you're a part of it, and you're experiencing it, what has surprised you the most?
I think just the overall discourse probably has surprised me the most. Certainly it's something that we haven't seen in women's basketball, so to speak, but it also comes with being mainstream sport. And I think that's the greatest compliment, is that we're finally mainstream sport. But I would say that's what surprised me the most.
Coach, early on in the season, what are you learning about the grit and the determination of your players, and then what are you learning about your leaders, and how are they stepping up during this early part of the season?
Yeah, first and foremost, we got a tough group. I mean, they're competitive. They are gritty. They are physical. And I think we've got to find it consistently. We're still a work in progress in terms of putting all of our pieces together and finding out how to make one another better on a nightly basis, where we get certain players' shots on the floor, how we get them actively involved, how we can utilize their strengths on the offensive and defensive end of the floor, how to compete consistently at a high level on both ends. And as far as leadership goes, we're getting leadership from lots of different places, and I think that's really incredible. We have veterans who are leading from the front, leading from the side, leading from the back. We have young players who are leading, by example in everything that they do, who are learning from our veterans, who are finding their voices. So it's a really good combination of players that we have in our locker room.
Think of.
You said on Tuesday that Aaliyah was outstanding in the game. Could you just expand on what she did really well going up against Brittany Griner?
I think first and foremost, the one thing that I appreciate so much about Aaliyah is she's an elite communicator. And when you are a post player who is involved in action, particularly on the defensive end of the floor, when you're the center of everything on the defensive end, being an elite communicator is necessary. She sees things. She's a really high IQ player. She's an active communicator and active defender. I thought she did a great job on the defensive end of the floor. And she's a hub for us offensively. I mean, she's a tremendous facilitator. I have asked her to be a little more selfish and not just look to facilitate, but look to score. I thought she did that. She scored in a lot of different ways. She was active for us on both ends as well. And I felt like her endurance throughout the course of that game. Like, it is hard when you're playing against two big physical post players on both ends of the floor. I'm glad I was never a post player. Being a post player is tough and it's hard. And I felt like her consistency from her energy, effort, and efficiency was at a really high level.
You spoke a second ago about chemistry and the leadership on the team. Sophie's the new girl on the team. She seems to have acclimated really quickly, though. Can you talk about what she's brought and also her friendship with Lexi and how their dynamic is kind of helping keep things loose?
Yeah, Sophie is she and Lexi are both really our plug and play type of players. I think they can fit in many different systems and on many different teams. They're high energy, they're unselfish, they know how to play off of one another and off of other people. They're willing cutters, which opens things up. And of course, if you're a willing cutter, Caitlin and Aaliyah and Kelsey are going to find you. And so to have a player like Sophie who has the experience that she has, playing with other elite players, Diana and BG, being two of them, to understand what it means to play with elite players and to come into our organization and bring what she brings. I mean, she's a light when she comes in and steps into the gym is really important. And her and Lexi, they're similar in how they play and how they impact the game. And we need those types of players who can impact the game in more ways than just the stat sheet. You see them in the stat sheet, certainly, but they both have the ability to impact on both ends with things that don't show up in the stat sheet.
Coach, can you talk about, you talked a little bit about it earlier, about the challenge that they present in the post with BG and Bree. Can you talk about how you go into this game and approach that challenge?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we've got to handle the point of attack on the defensive end a little bit better, handle their ball screens better. We've got to be more disruptive around the perimeter. We can't just let them pass the ball around the perimeter on the three-point line. We've got to force it out a little higher, disrupt timing and rhythm, which then will disrupt spacing and not allow quite as easy post entries. We got to have awareness of when and where we can give help. We got to do our work early in the post and not allow them to get 2 feet in the paint or 2 feet in the restricted area. And we've got to keep them off the glass. They're both experienced elite post players. They're both high IQ players, and they've got experience here and internationally. And so we're not going to stop them necessarily. We just have to try to make their lives a little bit more difficult.
Thank you, Coach.
You're answering a lot of questions here about strategy of basketball, but I imagine going back to just the hoopla around this team, you're also going to have to manage the players in maybe a different way. Players, and maybe all of you have never experienced anything like this, so how do you factor that in?
Yeah, I think, having been a player and have a lot of players on our staff, we approach it in just being really transparent and honest. We've got to do a really good job of making sure that we keep the main thing as coaches, and then help our team understand that there are layers to everything that we do and the notoriety that's comes with our team and our franchise, our league, quite frankly. And while that's nice and that's exciting, it's not why we're here, right? We're here to play basketball. We're here to do our jobs. We're here to be the best that we can be. And as coaches, we're here to put these players in positions to be the best that they can be. So just, being honest about those things. We've got a lot of weapons on our team. We've got to be able to sacrifice, the me for the we. We've got to be able to understand that on any given night, anyone can get going, and we got to find the hot hand. We've got to find the right play, the right pass. The ball tends to find you. And we've got to have balance. The other night I think we had 3 in double figures. Our shot distribution wasn't where we needed to be. In order for us to be our best, we've got to have 6, 7, potentially 8 people in double figures. So the ball's got to move. And so we just have those honest conversations, and then we're trying to tweak and figure out what the right rotations are, what the right lineups are, and where we get our team the ball in the right positions.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.